The other part is that the SWOT analysis that they require you to do, you have to really explain the SWOT analysis to make it like a marketing MBA paper. So one of the part that I find a lot of problem happens is on the market price comparison. So usually after the SWOT analysis, then you look into the pricing comparison. What the examiner wants is to analyze the market as in the total market, not just your own market. So you have to give an ongoing, like comparing to the same let's say you are doing project sale for a condominium, then you need to provide the current scenario of ongoing project that is your competitor. Then you analyze it to the past and the future launching of these similar types of property. So this part, what you are trying to do is to show to the developer that the developer doesn't need to do his own price comparison, or he can compare his own price comparison with your overall comparison. That means the examiner wants the candidate of the TPC to see that the developer wanting to know about what is happening in the market. So what the competitor is doing now in the market. So providing competitive comparison to the developer, so that the developer would be more aware of what is happening in the market from the third party point of view. I am sure the developer themselves also already has their own data on this part for the price comparison purpose. Then you need to come up with the gross development value as from the price list. So this you need to take from the developer the full price list and come up with a calculation of the total value Then this value is important in the examiner's perspective, as being that how much of this value would be sold when you propose your project. So if you propose that you're going to sell 100% of the GDV within 12 months, then how do you achieve that? Normally, the rough figure of the GDV percentage would be around 85 to 90%. Most people would put around 85 to 90% of the GDV being sold during the process of engaging an agency to help selling the project. And you need to be clear on the calculation. How do you arrive at this percentage, and what is the expenses that you are proposing, your budget that you are proposing onto the GDV, how many percent of the GDP. And normally it is acceptable if it is within 1 to 3% of the GDP being spent as the marketing expenses. And in task 2, this is a part that you need to quantify by giving a budget simplified way to make it simple, so that the examiner can have one glance to arrive at this expenditure of the GDV. So two things. First is the completion, how much of a project is going to be sold by a period of time, like say 6 months or 12 months, and what is the percentage that you are going to achieve, and how much percentage of expenses will come out of the GDV to achieve this. So this is time included, timeline included, and how much you are achieving within the 6 or the 12 months. So task 2, there are other things that you may get caught inside. When you do task 2, and in the sense that you are giving marketing material, you're proposing the marketing material, then all this has to comply with our MEAS 6 on marketing and advertising. So this part need to include persons responding to, flyers must include the statement, persons responding to. These are as in circular as well as in our MEAS 6. Then you have also the budgeting, which you need to provide quotes from the various service providers, like newspaper, how much it's going to cost. All these costing need to be inserted into the appendix of the task 2. So make it simple so that you don't have too much complication answering some of these questions. Alright, then now we move to the last part, the part 4, which is question and answer, oral question and answer. I go to the sub part 1, estate agency principles and techniques. So this part is the main part that estate agents do in a day in, day out job. The second part will be the law and all the regulation related, and the third part will be the MEAS, and then the fourth part will be the topical matter. So these 4 subparts, if you were to fail any of these 4 subparts, you have only 4 attempts, maximum 4 attempts. If you do not complete in the 4 attempts, then you have to resit for the whole 4 subparts. So it's just like your part 1, you have 3 attempts. So if you cannot clear the 6 subjects in the part 1 within the 3 attempts, you have to restart taking the whole part 1. So this is the same system for these 4 subparts in the interview. So in the interview, when you come to the question and answers and the 4 subparts, try to finish off 4 subparts in one single exam, so that you do not need to prepare again and come back, because the coming back to prepare, some of these parts are actually linked to each other. So it's like if you are studying for the laws, then you actually covers the agency principle and also the taxes. So it's best that you can try and finish off the 4 subparts in one single taking of the TPC. So here, the subpart 1, the techniques and the principle of estate agency practice, you also touch on things like soliciting, when to be paid, what is the fee schedule, the 7th schedule, what is the minimum fee, or can you charge more, when can you charge more, when can you actually claim reimbursement, as in sometimes mileage, how many kilometers away that you can start claiming. What about marketing of the foreign property? Marketing for foreign property is a favorite question by the examiner. So they will ask you what is the process to apply for approval to get to market foreign properties, and then what are the required things that need to be done. So what is the fee when you get a foreign project? What is the minimum fee? And how long can you do this project promotion? What is the space of time? So you have also things like client's account in the case of when they ask about estate agency principle and technique. So when you accept the money from a booking, what should you do? And then do you put into the client's account immediately? What are things that you can put into the client's account? What are money that you cannot put into the client's account? How many clients' account can you have? These are the questions that was asked. And they touch on also co-agency in cases where you have a situation where you are a listing agent and then you have a co-agent coming from another agency. What would you do? And in the case of a situation where you have your own branch of agents in the other branch wanting to do this particular listing, can it be like that or not? How is it by person, co-agency? Is it by the person, or is it by only the agency, or it can include even the branches? All these are questions that they can ask you and confuse you. So when it comes to listing agent and co-agent, they will ask you about who keeps the booking fee, who is supposed to invoice, and then why is it so? These are questions can be complicated. Can estate agent represent both parties, or in what condition that it can represent both parties? All these are questions that may be asked. So when the situation of when an agent of the same agency or different branch, like I said just now, bring along a prospect, is it okay or not for a co-agency? So on the part of the technique, I think this is the summary I can give. And let us move on to the law and the rules. Okay, the second subpart would be the acts, the rules for the more like books by the books. So this is about more of Act 242 Rules 1986, MEAS, Circular and Guidance Notes. So Acts of the Parliament 1981 and the Rule 1986. So they ask about the origin of the Act, what do you understand by the various amendments over the years? What are the new amendments in the latest amendment 2018? If there is a sole proprietor who has passed on, who has passed on means sole proprietorship, one single estate agent, and then he has died, passed on, and then what will happen? Who to inform the board? What will happen to the agency? Who is to take over? These are the situation which is all in the Act. You can read the Act and the part on the section 22C restriction, and also the issue of notwithstanding subsection 2. So can you call negotiator as a general term as a negotiator, including a probationary estate agent, or is a probationary estate agent similar like a registered estate agent? Or these are things that you ask about, whether what is the terminology of a negotiator or probationer. So we move on. The standard and the circular. Name all the standards. These are questions asked. So you have to remember all your standard 1 to standard 10. What are the types of engagement? 4 or 5. In the old days is 5 types. Now is 4 types. What is exclusive and what is misleading versus misrepresentation? So give example. What are the reasons why exclusive is a better way of handling the listing? Why is it better than a sole engagement? Selling foreign properties in Malaysia. What is the minimum? How much? Can you charge more than the maximum? So all these are usually question asked. Some can be overlapping between circular, standard, and also some can be also asked similarly in the estate agency practice side, the technique and also the principle. So we want to talk about circular. So it was a question asked about circular 10, which is the recent one about the rent renewal issue. So how many rent per REN? So do you need to request for more? You have to write to board or not? These are questions being asked. What are the liberalization guidelines? Who is the registrar? So you have to remember who is the board president. Sometimes they'll ask questions like name the person who is the board president, who is the board registrar, who is the prime minister, who is the premier of your state, premier of Sarawak. So we also talk about guidance note. So there's only one guidance note that I know of, which is the guidance for the registration of firm. This is about liberalization and non-liberalization. So if they ask you, give an example of what a guidance note is, then you can give this example. So you have actually 5 documents or 5 channel of material. First is the Act 242 itself by the Parliament. Then you have the Rules 1986, which is by the Ministry. So this is a subsidiary legislation. Then after that, you have the standards, MEAS, which comes up from the board. Board come up with the MEAS and also all the other standards for valuation and property management. After the MEAS, you have the various circular that comes out as a notification by the board. And one of it actually is also included is the guidance note. Guidance note is about something which is more detailed in about certain issue that the board has come out with the guidance note. And this guidance notes also include some of the things like the edition of the CPD. What are the guidelines for the CPD? How to do the CPD? CPD now in the board actually is the 4th edition of the new edition, the 4th edition, which includes CPD for those who are above 55 years old. Still need to do CPD. In the old days, those above 55 only half, and then above 60 years old no need to do. Now is above 55 until no limits. Is all half, 5 points. The one that is below 55 is 10 CPD point. The one above 55 is half, which is 5 CPD point, including those who are above 60 years old. Then the new CPD guideline also says that the PEA from 2024 onwards renewal need to do 5 CPD point. So all these are questions that can be asked in the TPC under this part, under this subpart. So here is the guidance for the registration of firms. So you can see, as I have given an example here. So the subpart 3 is about property law and property taxes. This one usually will be by the book. If you are able to remember part 2, when you do laws relating to property. So this subpart 3 of the oral question and answer will touch on very basic questions like what is land? What's the definition of land? What are the various terms that is being used in the land? Like the case of various types of classification of land, category of use of land. So this you need to go back to your books and study. Of course, the hak milik sementara, hak milik tetap, types of title, the types of land officers, the registrar and the land administrator. So this is about not in Sarawak, but about the National Land Court. In the Sarawak setting, they will ask you various types of Sarawak site. The thing is about differences in between the states, the region of Sarawak versus the West Malaysia. They will ask you things like what are the differences between the land law in these two places. Talks about caveat, talks about the types of caveats and what are the differences between Sarawak and West Malaysia. What are the purposes of these caveats? They may also ask you about leasehold, easement. All these are very basic in the land law. If you study land law, they won't ask very detailed things like transmission of the title, people who has passed on, or in the case of bankruptcy, they cannot hold land anymore, then company liquidated. All these are very complicated ones, so they won't ask. They will usually ask very basic ones. So this one on the part of property law and taxes, you can go back to my various videos. I have done quite a fair bit of video on these topics into either the Fine Way series as well as some of the subtopics here. Okay, on the taxes, say RPGT, stamp duty, the various taxes, including also the assessment rates as well as the how do they do valuation, the valuation list. So this you go back to part 1, D04, property taxation. So all this, what about acquisition price, what is disposable price, how do you calculate the RPGT, what is the treatment for renovation if you have done renovation. So all this you have to revise your property taxation RPGT. Then stamp duty on SPA, how do you calculate the stamp duty payable for tenancy? They give you an example, I ask you to calculate. So what about the assessment rates in the local government act? So how do you arrive at the various assessment rates for the rating, the situation of a development that you need to submit the application for plot ratio, all the plain area, density, then the development charge or the premium for the change of category of use of the land. So all this is basic on what I have highlighted earlier just now, that you go back to your part 2 in part 1 property taxation or the law relating to property D10. So all these need to revise. Next is on the topical matters. So all these topical matters is anything that is general. So what are the example of the question asked? So it can be situation like they ask you, so what is the catalyst of the real estate industry, the growth of the real estate industry? Very general question. And then there are questions like how do you monitor your negotiators, and issues like, condominiums are now all very expensive. Why are they still building more and more strata buildings? What is happening on the ground with the oversupply? What happened with the bank rates, the interest rate going up? What would you see that the future potential of foreigner coming to Malaysia? And then they ask you about all the situation of MM2H as well. So, and here I was asked also a question about Indonesia moving its capital to Kalimantan. What say you? So these are examples of the topical matters that can be asked. So my conclusion for all these questions I've gone through on the TPC for estate agency is that most likely not all will go through the 4 parts. So some of it may be skipped, like I think that they will skip the work experience because there's not much things there. Diary work already been marked, so there's not much of issue. Then they will just go on to the task 1 and task 2. And then if you have complicated situation in task 1 or task 2, then it will drag on. A lot of time will be dragged on in task 1 and task 2. So that part usually will take up about almost 45 minutes each for the various issues that come up or creep up into the discussion. And when you come to the question and answer, you'll probably take more than an hour. So this part is because it can be about 20 questions for each sub-part. But then the usual thing is that the examiner, when it comes to giving you more chance, it means that you have not scored enough points. If you have scored enough points, they'll move on to the next topic. So in this case, if you are being asked a few more questions, it's actually giving you more chances that you can pass the question and answer. So if it's like, for example, the general question, the topical matters, usually you'll be asked with less question because usually you cannot say it's a wrong answer. So most of the candidates can pass the topical matters. So that part you can see that there will be less question. Whereas for the one that is difficult to pass, then they will ask more questions so that you have more chances to pass that particular section or the particular sub-part. Right, we just move on. So here, as we have no question, because this is not a Zoom session, not an interactive session, so there is no question, I move on. I am putting up this just to highlight that I have done some platforms, e-learning system for the board exam, estateagentexam.com. Advertising platforms are Contract to You and findway.info. And then we have a blog, which is the My Real Property Online. You can get most of my videos in this My Real Property Online. Thank you very much. I am Thomasin PA 2066. Today is 29th of March 2023. These are the address of my websites and my mobile number. You can contact me anytime if you have questions, and I hope I can help you out in your coming TPC. Thank you. Yeah, I come back for a few points that I need to add on. Of course, the recording is done for the purpose of benefiting those who are attending the TPC. So I don't want to be too personalized to give you information about my own TPC result. So this part I want to add in is the question that I feel that people would usually ask. Whether do you get your result or your outcome of the TPC immediately in the examination or not? So the question is, do I know if I have failed my TPC? So this question I can answer in the following manner. In the previous TPC that I have heard my seniors, they said that the TPC examiners after the TPC would inform the candidate. But now, according to what I understand from the board will give you an email. So on that particular month, when the TPC candidates result will be presented in a board meeting, and after the board meeting, formal letter or an email would be sent to the individual candidate notifying the situation of the outcome. So like in a case, most task, the task 1 and the task 2, and then some parts of the subparts of the question they have to repeat, then all this will be documented in an email and subsequently the formal letter from the board. So on the month of March, as I have attended my TPC on the 8th of March, until today, 29th of March, I have not received any email or any formal letter. But I have checked with my seniors and those who are attending the TPC. Many of them said that there is a formal letter and an email from the board informing you of your outcome. So most of the cases, if you have completed the question and answer well, then most of the situation would be you would have passed the parts, the subparts of the question and answers. Of course, the task 1 and task 2, they actually would let you know what are the things to amend or to change. So if you are told to do changes, then that means you have failed your task 1 or task 2. So this is addition to the earlier video that I have taken just to answer some of these unwritten procedures that is practiced by the TPC committee. Thank you.